Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to another episode of Dome TV. Today I have a very special guest, man. You've seen him on the show a lot. It's my brother, man, Street Sufi Los, man. Thank you for coming through, my brother.
Peace, G. Peace, peace. It's always a pleasure coming on your platform.
Man,
Always.
always a pleasure to have you, bro. So a lot of things to build on today. But first, a few weeks ago, we saw the pro solidarity encampments on college campuses. And so, what were your thoughts when you first saw those? The youth at these college campuses and these encampments and their protest and striving to be stand for something politically. Like, what were your first thoughts when you saw that?
My first thoughts was like that students and youth movements always been at the forefront of the fight against, whatever it may be, any kind of injustices. The
Hmm.
students and the youth movements have always been at the forefront of that. Like we talked about a few times, you had what was that in the 60s? You had
Kent State.
yeah, yep,
Hmm.
Vietnam. They were
Hmm.
protesting Vietnam, apartheid and the apartheid in South
Mm.
Africa in the 80s.
Yep, yep.
All of the police brutality that ramped up in the 2000s. Students were frontline and center during all of those injustices. And again, they stood up. They standing up.
Hmm.
Standing up. It's unfortunate that the universities and that establishment, that academic establishment, were like bashing, tearing down the encampments and locking them up, beating them up. It's unfortunate that happened, but hey,
Hmm.
they stood up.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right, absolutely right about a lot of like the student youth or the movements at the college campuses, from Merritt College and the Panthers to just Cornell in '68, like how we built on before. Um, it's dope to see the youth still, that still on it like that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times as you get older, a lot of people get less radical. I strive not to be that way, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
they own it, you know what I'm saying? They got that fire, and that's always amazing to see. And so whenever we were, watching all of this unfold, what were your thoughts on? 'Cause, like, one of the thoughts that became like clear for me is, you mentioned the police and the police presence and locking students up and beating students up and all of these different things, and the idea of that when before they would use their propaganda tools, obviously, to say, yeah, these protesters are this or that, and but when they saw that doesn't work, right? uh, then they bring their militarized police to keep everybody in line, and it was obvious and so evident, you know what I'm saying, with these student encampments. Like, if you can just speak on just the fact that you know the propaganda tool is always going to be used, but if that doesn't work, then the military is coming behind it.
absolutely. The police is one of the arms of the global industrial, complex.
Hmm.
Um, the police, you know, are highly militarized. We always build about how they train with Israeli, military and things like that. And so again, you know, if you look at the arsenal that the police have, like they have everything that a military unit would have. They have
Hmm.
automatic, rifles. They have whole wings that have armored trucks and all of this. And so again, like you said, when you go against the state or the state's ideals, who comes next? If the propaganda doesn't work, then we're gonna send in these militarized police forces, and if that doesn't work, then we're gonna send in the National Guard and so on. And so, turning militarizing your police force and your army against your citizens says a lot about you
Mm.
know about
Hmm.
who run this.
Hmm. Absolutely. You see who you like. When you see who you can't offend, who you can't go against, um, as far as ideologically wise, like you see what happens, right? You get a clear cut um uh picture of of who is allowed to be opposed and who isn't. You know what I mean? And we were like you were mentioning, different things that happened on college campuses. And one thing that a lot of people and like with this idea of bringing the police in on these college campuses is not anything new. Like, with the Kent State massacre, and then one that people may not talk about as much as what happened on Kent State was in May 15th, 1970 at Jackson State. Police opened fire on students during a May 14th protest of the U.S. invasion of Cambodia, and 12 students were wounded. You know what I'm saying? And one student was killed. And so these protests and on college campuses have always been a thing. And police coming to do what police do has always been a thing too. You know what I'm saying? And um the as we mentioned, propaganda and how that works. I know you saw how corporate media like how corporate media like, you know, uh, I guess uh how they framed all of this, right?
Right.
I'm sure it wasn't of a surprise to you, but like, what are your thoughts on the way corporate media portrays not just, the student protests, but anything that opposes the ideals of imperialism?
Again, we got to go back to history. History is the best thing to inform us. You know what I mean? And when you look at the beginning, because propaganda has always existed. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
since nations and
Mm-hmm.
empires have existed, propaganda has existed. But American propaganda, I would say, begins with Edward Bernays,
Mm.
and he wrote a book. I'm not sure exactly what year it came out,
Mm-hmm.
but he wrote a book called Propaganda. Literally, the book is
Oh
called
wow.
Propaganda.
Okay.
And J. Edgar Hoover, and so basically what he did was he he was trying to figure out how do you quell the population,
Mm-hmm.
the majority of a nation,
Mm-hmm.
through you pacify them,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of spin them and trick them, and so that's what the whole American propaganda is about, and that's what the book is about. But speaking on history, J. Edgar Hoover
Mm.
read this book, agreed with everything you were saying, and he incorporated that into the American system and how America's ran, and to keep American life stable, to keep the citizens in line with the government. That's what propaganda is for. And then when you look at the media itself, right? You got hundreds of broadcast and cable networks, right? But they're owned by seven corporations.
That's crazy, right?
So when you start putting two and two together, like, when you talk about propaganda, who owns these corporations? And are their interests being carried out by the politicians that they fund? And so it's just a big feedback loop of propaganda and money, and how do we want to sway the American public? And that's where the
Mm.
media and how they frame it plays into all of this. Read Edward Bernays'
Man,
propaganda. All the
yeah, I gotta
viewers
get
need to
that. Yeah, I
cop
gotta
that.
get that. I gotta get that. And it also like, yeah, and we saw how propaganda was used in Nazi Germany to sway the people to do some of the most evil shit like known to humanity. You know what I'm saying? And we see like now, bro, like, no matter of fact, and that to that point that you made about like these hundreds of news companies owned by an umbrella of maybe five, six, or seven companies, right? Like, did you ever see that clip one time where it was like something happened and it was a clip of like 60 different news stations just reading off the same script?
Yeah. That's what I like to call a glitch in the system.
Facts,
When you
facts.
peep that, you
Yeah.
you see like, okay, they running a play.
Right, right, right.
Stay vigilant.
And I think people don't realize how important true journalism and investigative journalism is. And salute to all the people who are using their pen to write about what's really happening, the whistleblowers, people
Yes.
who are exposing the bullshit, knowing, like, think about how important the journalist is, bro. Whenever you think about what's happening in Gaza and how
Mm,
journalists have been targeted.
mm.
You know what I'm saying?
That's that's a shame because they know how powerful
Mm-hmm.
the truth is.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna try to squash that out any way they can. You know what I mean? And it's just it's, like you said, salute to the journalists that's on the ground, the independent journalists, not
Yeah.
the people who are owned by these seven corporations. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The actual independent journalists in the field, the people reporting on X, the people on all these different social media platforms. You know what I mean? That we in this generation that we privy to. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
didn't have this
Mm-hmm.
in the 50s and the 60s, and so keep using it. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
absolutely. Do
Keep
do you
using.
now, do you think that, with this whole shit about uh banning TikTok, do you think part of this is the fact that people can see live and direct while it's happening the shit that these corporate media channels are lying about? They'll say, all right, this didn't happen with the IDF, or this is, and somebody be like, here's the video, right? And they'll put it on TikTok. And do you think, like, that is part of the reason why America wants to ban TikTok, is because, like, when you look at Twitter or something, it would be tough for them to come after Twitter because it's an American entity, right?
Right.
But they can do covert shit like ban what you say on there and suspend accounts and things of that nature. But when it comes to TikTok, do you think that part of the reason why there's a push to ban TikTok in America is because people are able to see these atrocities happen all over the world in real time?
Absolutely. It's just about how
But yeah, like, as we were saying, the like, do you think that's why America is hell bent on you know banning TikTok?
absolutely. The power of TikTok is amazing. It has the youth for one.
Hmm.
Um, every all of my kids and they friends, everybody on TikTok. It's even adults, but it's
Yeah.
really a youth based platform. And so, you know, a lot of the investigative journalism, little small bits of teaching is on there. I mean, it's a lot of pseudo stuff on there too, but the actual truth that's on there is, it can go viral like that. And so, yeah, they, by like you mentioned, it being a foreign,
Hmm.
what I'm saying, platform and it having the youth, I think that's two of the major reasons why they do not want that to
Yeah.
remain the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think I read about a week or two ago that uh all um all journalists from Al Jazeera have been blocked out of Gaza, and they're not even able to go report on the ground anymore. Um, and what was, so I saw a clip, bro. It was Hillary Clinton, and yeah, man, the person that called us super predators, the person who's her and her husband, uh, you know, uh, we don't even have to go into that. Okay, but Hillary Clinton recently said that these protesters all over the country are ignorant and don't really know the issues. As somebody, first off, that shit is so condescending, right? And we know the history of the vile shit that Hillary Clinton has been involved in. But whenever you see these politicians, like the Clintons, echo some of the same things of, that these these college students are ignorant, they don't really know the issues. it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because for one, they're actually in fucking college, right? Um, and I had the opportunity to see the protests and be a part of the protests at Duke University. And I was just doing the knowledge, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
To the to what the students were on, right?
Right.
And they were talking about different books on the Palestinian genocide that they were reading. They were mentioning, you know, people such as Finkelstein and Edward Said. So they're not ignorant because I heard these conversations, right? But what do you think about this whole thing where these, older politicians looking at these youth like, they're just, stupid kids that don't know what they're talking about. You know what I'm saying? They'll grow out of
These students are well informed.
it.
Like you said, they're in college. Come on now,
Mhm.
they're at universities.
Right.
They are well informed. They know what's going on. They taking political courses and reading history. So I think it's a slap in the face, man. I really do think many politicians, Hillary Clinton and the Clintons, period, in particular, I really do think they think we are stupid.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, at
Yeah.
this point, you have to think that
Yeah.
to say, oh, we don't know what's going on when clearly we have TikTok, clearly we have X, clearly we have Al Jazeera,
Hmm.
clearly we have these outside um, journalists things we could turn to say that we don't or they don't know what's going on when they're actually studying.
Mm.
To say that they don't know what's going on is a slap in the face, and it shows you how they look at us,
Yeah.
at them, at the
Yeah.
youth too.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's a
Hmm.
slap in the face, man. Uh I really don't like politicians too much.
Me neither, man. Me either, bro. And speaking of politicians, another thing that has kind of been in the news lately was Morehouse being um obviously one of the most prestigious universities and HBCUs in the country, also has a history of having, some great people that have come from some great people that have come from this university, such as Martin Luther King Jr., things of that nature. Um, and in the news, obviously, Biden has taken a lot of heat for his continued. Not that he wasn't taking heat before, because there's plenty of shit to get on Biden about, right? Like whether it's from his politics in the 90s that locked black men and women up at these crazy rates, from um, you know to now, well, the things that he ran on that he didn't that had no plans on bringing into fruition. Um, but even now, Morehouse invited Joe Biden in the middle of this climate when people are referring to him as Genocide Joe, right? Um, they invited him to, I guess, to do the commencement speech at Morehouse. With that being the college of, Dr. King and how he spoke out about Vietnam, like, do you feel like it's hypocritical for Morehouse to invite Joe Biden to give a speech on campus?
Absolutely. I feel like that this is also political. I feel like a majority of African Americans,
Hmm.
probably the people who run Morehouse included, are
Hmm.
liberal and or Democrats.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I feel like it's kind of saving face like that. They see a lot of people upset with what you were talking about earlier,
Hmm.
Biden's politics, the money he's been sending to Ukraine and Israel. A lot of young black people and people of color, period, are upset with the Biden administration and Democrats in particular. So I think this is an opportunity to say, hey,
Mm.
you know what I mean? It's kind of a what is it? Kind of damage control on both
Yeah.
ends for the
Yeah.
administration, for Biden and his administration is
Mm.
damage control. Look, see, we're
Hmm.
going to Morehouse,
Hmm.
this, that, and the third. And for Morehouse is see, listen, we can piece this up with the Democratic Party. We don't vote
Mm,
for Trump and don't
right.
go red and all of this other stuff, or don't go for an alternative to the two-party system. And so it's just a damage control on both ends. You know what I mean? The liberal Democrats and the Biden administration. It's damage control.
Man,
That's all it is.
that's a great point. That's a great point. And Margaret Kimberly, who I follow on Twitter. She's a a writer and organizer and all. She does a lot. But she said, "Dear Morehouse men, one, wear keffiyeh. Two, May 19th is Malcolm X's birthday. Wear an image of Malcolm. Three, walk out. Four, if you don't want to walk out, then don't applaud, stand up, or even smile. Look at Biden in absolute silence. We should be able to hear a pin drop." And I think that's a great idea. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Um, no, I just had to read her tweet out loud because like I was like, yeah, that would say a lot, right? Even though if they did that,
Mm-hmm.
corporate media would not show that.
Hmm.
But the people there with their phones out, we'd see it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Um, Macklemore had dropped that song, what is it, Hans Hall, about U.S. imperialism, and it went viral. And I was just scrolling through my Twitter feed, and a lot of people, I don't want to say criticized our own MCs.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say our own, I mean like black MCs. That I don't want to say they criticized them, but they kind of raised an eye or a critique or
Right.
had an analysis as to it's interesting that Macklemore is the one to make this song and not some of our own.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that take?
Man, that's a heavy question right there. I did not get a chance to hear the Macklemore song,
Hmm.
but I've been hearing about it. I feel like black artists are concerned with just being successful, and I think that taking a radical take like that, going against
Hmm.
like the American imperialism, going against that genocide that's going on, I think that's a radical take that could stop they bag essentially.
Yeah.
That's something that can have repercussions. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like if I'm sponsored by these companies, Nike, or I got brand deals or whatever any major black artist has going on right now that's feeding them, right?
Hmm.
If I go against their, if I go against that, then they're not gonna do business with me. So I feel like one, it's them scared to say something because it's gonna have a backlash.
Hmm.
And I feel like two, being I feel like being woke has
Hmm.
been weaponized.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
feel like it's bad for business.
Hmm.
I feel like it's not cool
Yeah. Yeah.
in mainstream popular culture, not in reality.
Right. Right.
In reality, it is what it is.
Right.
But in pop culture, it's not cool. You know.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's why you haven't heard much about that. Now, it's also a depoliticization in black music.
Mm.
Period. We see that from the 90s and
Hmm.
even the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, even hip hop going to the hip hop era. Right now, there's not really much mainstream political rap.
Hmm.
The Chuck D and all of that was going on in the 80s and early 90s. I think Wise Intelligence spoke about this. You know what I mean? Like the music business is exploitative.
Hmm.
And so when that's no longer, you know what I mean, when that's no
Yeah.
longer making money or no longer cool, they're gonna stop funding it. They're gonna stop signing artists who are radical.
Hmm.
And so it's just capitalism, bro. Like it's not,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. All that shit goes back to capitalism, right?
I
Because
swear.
it's like it's like two things. My how I see it is you're right. Fear is driving most of them because they are signed to these labels that Jewish people run, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Two, Macklemore is white, so he can bounce
Mm-hmm.
back from the shit way before a black artist can.
Good point.
You know what I'm saying? Um, but like you said about the idea of, you know, the radical side of hip hop being, you know, like stomped out, like on that same clip that you were talking about, I think it's the same clip where Wise Intelligent was he was talking about like whenever he was coming up in the rap game, he was like, man, there was he was like a you would go to a Dr. Ben lecture and see other rappers there, and
Right.
that was the vibe. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And you know, they made it about capital instead of culture. And like I even read a couple articles, you know, that talked about hip hop nowadays being a hip hop nowadays being a big ass commercial for capitalism. Also, Slank posted on Twitter the other day some proof about the State Department using rappers to you know, at home and abroad to push different agendas in relation to the state. So it's like, man, this shit goes deep, bro.
The rabbit hole is deep, man.
Yeah.
Again, this system that we exist in is exploitative. So
Hmm.
why wouldn't the music business, which
Hmm.
exists in this system that we
Mm,
move in, be
mm.
exploitative as well? And if it's bad for business, we're not trying to hear it. I'm not trying to sign this rapper with knowledge. We don't want to hear that.
Right, right,
That's
right,
why the underground exists
right.
because they don't want to hear it.
Now, so that's a perfect segue. And you're right. That's why the underground exists. The indie artists exist. Everybody, make sure y'all support the indie artists because they spitting, they're doing their thing. But that's a great segue because I want to build on the Kendrick Lamar and Drake battle, right?
Mm.
So, uh, as I think about it, and I see which fan bases are, you know, like, you know, having these discussions and what angles they're taking. Even though uh, both are signed to big labels and both could be considered corporate as far as hip hop goes, it feels like this is still was a battle between and culture and the the new wave of conveyor belt music, right?
Mm.
Where you know a lot of the stuff sounds the same. People are afraid to tackle certain topics. People are afraid to experiment with different sounds. Um, and I could be wrong, but like I feel like whenever I have been seeing these discussions, that has seems like that has been like an underlying thing: culture versus corporate the you know the corporatization of hip hop. And I'm not saying with Kendrick Lamar being signed to a major label that he couldn't fall into that category, but he hasn't the music he makes hasn't ever been compromised by anything. Right. And so do you so what are your thoughts on that?
So I think that what you just laid out is the archetypal structure of this whole battle. Is
Mm,
culture versus pop culture.
mm-hmm, mm,
It's
mm,
and you could even see it like if we get into the actual battle and
mm-hmm.
into the actual songs
Yeah.
that they were shooting back and
Oh, we
forth at each other
yeah,
with.
yeah.
When you look at Kendrick songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the Teddy Pendergrass sample
Mm.
that he
Yeah, he
used,
killed that.
when you look at the Al Green sample
Mm-hmm.
that he used, when he went into Atlanta history on Not
Mm,
Like Us,
mm,
even though that's a commercial kind of
mm-hmm,
catchy song, he still chose
mm-hmm.
to insert his cultural analysis into it versus Drake's stance was more in line with traditional battle, which is just like kind of mudslinging.
Yeah,
Kendrick was mudslinging too, don't get me
yeah,
wrong,
mm-hmm,
but they were both slinging mud.
yeah.
But again, Kendrick came from a cultural strategy,
Mm,
whereas Drake came from a strictly look. I'm gonna
yeah.
make these catchy hooks,
Mm-hmm,
drop. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Family matters and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So it's culture. Culture. It's It's
something
black culture versus pop culture. You know
right.
what I'm saying?
And, no, you're right. Like, because it's not that. Yeah, you're right. Because Drake's songs were like those. The songs that he replied with were like meant for the pop charts. Like you can hear
Yep.
it, right?
Yep.
Kendrick kind of gave you every kind of every kind of joint. Um, Kendrick kind of gave you every kind of joint within this battle. You know what I'm saying? Um, and so the first one, obviously, we got like that on the future. On the future album, which everybody went crazy because it was kind of like the first time we knew they had been talking about each other, for about 10 years now.
Right.
But this was in most recent history. This was kind of one of the most direct shots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Drake drops push-ups,
Mm.
and so let's kind of go through it as it happened. Um, Drake drops push-ups.
Yeah, push-ups. Push-ups
What'd you think?
was
What'd you think about that record?
I thought push-ups was I thought it did what it was supposed to do. It was
Hmm.
a jab.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know what I mean? He knew Kendrick was talking about him on like that, like you said, and he's like, okay, I want to fight. Like he
Yeah.
agreed to the fight
Yeah.
at this point,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so he
Yeah.
hit you with a jab. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I said earlier, it was catchy.
Hmm.
It had the typical rap battle roasting in there, talking
Hmm.
about how short he is and this and that and the third.
Hmm.
It was cool. I mean, I give it like 1 out of 10. I give it like maybe a 5 or 6.
Hmm.
It was cool. You know what I mean? It was Drake accepting the challenge,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I salute him for that. You know what I mean? He could have just been like, I'm too good for any of this.
Hmm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
I think he accepted the challenge
Mhm.
because of a total underestimation of what was going to happen, and an
He didn't
overestimation
know.
of what he could do. Yeah, he didn't know. He had
He
no
he
idea.
didn't know what was on the other side of
Nah.
of this fight,
Yeah.
because this was a fight. It
This
was
was a
it was
fight.
it was artistry. You
Yeah,
know,
this was a fight though. This was you
it
right.
was it was two poets going crazy. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Regardless of the ghostwriting, the whole ghost. We're not even gonna get into the ghostwriting thing,
Yeah.
but we know Drake can rap.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it was two poets having a battle, and Drake severely underestimated his opponent.
He did. He did. And you know how we were just talking about as we go to song number two, how we were just talking about, you know, Kendrick being of the culture. And, first off, Kendrick ain't the first one to say that Drake was a culture vulture. That's not the stuff that Kendrick was really saying about him has already been said before. Like, so it's not like it's because I see a lot of talk about you know the things or him having an issue with texting young girls and all that and all this other stuff. Everybody in his identity issues, people
Mhm.
already have been said that. You know what I'm saying? But Kendrick just said it in a dope way. But I
Right.
say that to say this: the Taylor Made freestyle comes out after that with the Tupac AI and the
Mhm.
Snoop Dogg AI. And I feel like this was Drake shooting himself in the foot right here, man. What you think?
I agree. It was in bad taste.
Hmm.
I mean, like this is how this is the disconnection from the culture. And again, they tried to counter and say, well, Kendrick used AI in a
That
video.
ain't the same though.
It's not the same. It was bad taste from Drake's perspective to use a beloved rapper who transitioned in a battle. It was just bad
That represent the same state that
that
the
Kendrick
person.
does. That represents Kendrick literally bases a lot of his artistry off of pop. That's one of
Hmm.
his influences. And so I get it. I get why you would do that. I just
Hmm.
feel like it was showing how culturally ignorant
Right. Right.
Drake is by
Yeah.
doing that. It was just bad. It was
Right.
bad.
Yeah. I totally agree. And then so um, after that, that was like is so I'm kind of looking at a list right now, and that came out on I think is that can't be right.
Was that Family Matters?
That came out 419. Push-ups. Yeah, push-ups came out on 419.
Okay.
No. I don't know. He might be wrong. But anyway, they said that Euphoria came next on 430, right?
Right.
Um, so in this time, Drake is going to Instagram trolling Kendrick.
Mm-hmm.
He's he has this sense of confidence, like,
Yep.
yo, I'm busting his ass right now.
Yep.
He not gonna say nothing.
Yep.
He has this, you know what I'm saying? Like, and Kendrick is not saying anything. Before we get into Euphoria, because we be in the group chat and we was building about this shit like every
Mm-hmm.
day while it was happening, and we was
Mm-hmm.
like kind of discussing it, right? And so from 419 to 430, you have people asking, yo, is Kendrick going to say something? Like, what's
Right.
going, like, what were your, and during that period, obviously, because we've obviously been conditioned now and nowadays to expect this response, and
Immediate.
yeah, immediately, right? When we talked about this before, Ether came out months later after
Yep.
Takeover, right?
Yep.
But anyway, so while Kendrick is cooking up, do you think that this wait from 419 to 430 probably was a fact that Rick Ross and others kind of jumped in it, and he was like, and Kendrick was like, nah, I ain't. I'm gonna wait till that shit like kind of dies, right?
Yep.
And then so it's just me and him. So there's no distraction from the people that everybody know I'm talking about him. This is what we're gonna do. Like, do you think that was part of the reason why? Because it looks like he had a lot of these records, maybe not completely finished, or but ready to go at a moment's notice, right? Like, so do you think he kind of waited, because Drake had the issues with the weekend on Future song and all this other stuff going on?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he did. I think he looked at it like I want to be the one. I don't want any distractions.
Right.
And I think that that break he took was him, like you said, locking. He locked in,
Hmm.
shut the world out, got in that zone. I think he recorded at least 10 songs
Mm,
in that time.
mm.
He loaded a
Damn.
whole clip up. He loaded a whole clip up. And
Damn.
again, like we was talking about, he went back in real time to
Hmm.
add and finish songs. But
Hmm.
this was all planned out. Like he when he sat down and said, "Yeah, I'm about to chop Drake head off." This was strategic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
silence was him loading his clips.
And that's so crazy to think about, because that means like shit, like he probably had this shit ready like whenever he dropped the joint, whenever he was hopped on Future's joint in March,
Yeah,
right? Like, and that's
yeah,
crazy to just be that's what we're gonna get into that in a second. But then Euphoria drops, and I think it's one of the definitely one of the best records in the battle, right?
yeah.
What was your thoughts on Euphoria?
Man, Euphoria. That's when I declared that Kendrick won.
Right after
Yeah, right after Euphoria,
that.
because I heard so we like you said we had like that,
Hmm.
then we had push-ups,
Hmm.
which was a good jab, like I said. Then like you said after push-ups, that was Euphoria, right? Oh, well,
Hmm.
Taylor made. Sorry,
Yeah, tailor
Taylor made.
made. Hmm.
And so Drake think in Drake mind, I'm winning.
Hmm.
I didn't
Hmm.
drop two
Yep.
joints. I got him on the ropes.
Yep.
Euphoria drop. Hey, look, Kendrick again displayed his range,
Hmm.
starting off with the Teddy Pendergrass sample, getting into that kind of neo soul kind of spoken word bag at the beginning,
Mm.
then peaking in the middle, beat
Hmm.
switch. Now let me turn up on you.
Yeah.
He threw
Yeah.
so many jabs and so many there were subliminals.
Hmm.
They were direct subliminals. Okay, it was things that he was saying that you would have to kind of think about like, oh, what does he mean by that? Like you
Yeah.
have to do the knowledge to some of the stuff. You're not saying it was super complex, but it was he was speaking directly to Drake.
Oh yeah.
This in this song and in this whole battle. That was
Hmm.
one that's also one of the differences between what Drake was doing in this battle and what Kendrick was doing. In Euphoria, he was speaking directly to Drake.
Yeah. 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 No, I agree. And um, I think, yeah, like you said, the beat switches, all of that was dope. And when it came out, like when it came out, and I had to like there was stuff that I didn't peep. You know what I'm saying? Like on first and second listen. And then you start seeing the internet pointing out different lines
Mm-hmm.
and like the double entendres. And I was like, oh man, all right, so let me go back and listen. And then I was like, man, like it's kind of a difference between it's a totally different angle than the way uh uh Drake dropped push-ups, right? Because like I said, push-ups could easily be a song in the club on the pop charts, or
Mm-hmm.
all of that. Um, and then Kendrick dropped 616 in LA, which I think is probably one of the best joints from Kendrick in this. It's just not on streaming. I'm guessing because of maybe some sample clearance issues. But when he dropped that, right? Um, he dropped 616 in LA, and then Drake same day dropped Family Matters. It's a lot
That was
going on right there. It's a lot going on. Like this is when people started saying like this might be like one of the biggest moments in hip hop history. Like what was your thought when Kendrick dropped 616 in LA? What was your thoughts on that record, and then Family Matters? Because I think Family Matters, I think 616 in LA is one of the most underrated songs in the battle.
I agree.
Because you have to go to YouTube to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Family Matters is one of the best joints in the battle. But like,
I
what
agree.
was what was your thoughts on that sequence of events?
When that happened, at that point, I was definitely putting this in top five greatest battles in hip hop
Hmm.
history because I've never seen a battle escalate this quickly. And
Right.
I know it's partially because of the technology, because of
Hmm.
the era we in, but
Hmm.
still,
Yeah.
with that aside, the escalation and it was like they were both of them were ready respectively. Like
Hmm.
Drake had joints tucked and he was dropping back to back, and Kendrick was
Hmm.
responding and making Drake respond. So it was
Yep.
just like when 616 in LA and Family Matters dropped, I was like, this battle is escalating quickly.
Right.
It's crazy. It was
Right.
crazy.
Right.
Crazy.
And the thing about that, I think Family Matters against anybody else probably wins the battle.
Yep. Any other rapper Family Matters would have took him out. That it's just a flawless song, man.
Hmm.
He the different flows he was using, the beat switches, of course, that's been a major component of this battle. A lot of beat switches
Hmm.
in certain songs, but yeah, Family Matters was him, Drake at his peak. I mean, he was showing off lyrically, like flow wise, he was untouchable. He just he spread himself a little thin by trying to address everybody,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
again, sonically,
Hmm.
that's one of the best songs of this battle. The beats, beats,
Hmm.
high level flows.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It was perfect, man. Again, 616 in LA. I love that. That's a whole vibe though.
Yeah. And
Like that's a vibe.
he not even talking about Drake in the first part. He just spitting.
No, and that's what I love. That's another thing I love about what Kendrick does. He draws you in. He don't
Mm.
get straight to business. He
Hmm.
he sets a mood,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
he just immediately stand on business after that. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Real
love it.
real talk. So I ain't gonna front um when I heard Family Matters, two things stood out for me. The rapping like you trying to free the slaves line. I was like, what is he on? I was like, for them to be calling you a white boy this whole battle, you should have more self-awareness to even say some shit like that, right? And then the second thing, which I feel like was like like a Steph Curry three to put Golden State up by 8 points, was the fact that even though that line from Drake was trash, the
Mhm.
slavery line, but it was a good song, and I remember hearing it and like damn, like
Yeah,
all right, like damn, like did the shit just like did the tide just turn? And then Kendrick 50 minutes later
that's
drops Meet the Grams and totally kills the momentum of Family Matters. Like, talk about that part, because I think that to me might be the highlight of the battle, even though the song "Not Like Us" is
hey
making
G.
rounds. Uh-huh.
That was just excellent strategy. I'm telling you, I think he read the Art of War or something.
Yeah, yeah,
I think he
right,
read 48, 50, 48 laws of power. He didn't get
right.
wind of all of that. Cause look, check it out, man. It's almost like he was watching Drake, you know what I mean, make his play. It's almost like an expert marksman.
Mm,
He had Drake in the scope the whole time.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know what
Or
I
or like
mean?
a master chess player, like I
Master
know
chess
what you about
player,
to
man.
do because I'm setting you up right now.
3 moves ahead. Again, back to Euphoria. He told Drake everything he was gonna do in Euphoria. He
Mm,
told him, "Listen, let's keep it a friendly fade.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Let's keep the family out of it.
mm-hmm,
Don't talk about me. I won't tell no, you know what I'm saying? Don't
mm-hmm,
tell no lies about me. I won't tell no truth." He was telling him like, "Hey, I'm ready for." That was him subconsciously communicating to Drake, "Do not take this where I know that you want to take it to because I'm ready. I'm
mm,
gonna one up you.
mm,
I got you figured out."
mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's what Meet the Grams did. It was I'm 17 steps ahead of you.
Mm. And
Stepped on your best effort. You
yeah.
you launched a power punch, like one of the most powerful hooks ever, a
Right.
Mike Tyson hook, and I countered you with an uppercut.
Mm.
Like, bro, that
Yeah.
shit was amazing.
I ain't never seen a record get its momentum killed like that in 50 minutes, bro.
Stepped on it.
Stepped on it. Stepped on it. And then uh the next day Kendrick
The
comes
next
out with
day,
Not Like Us. And like it cause like so we're going from so like we like everything like from 616 in LA to Family Matters to Meet the Grams, and then the next day Not Like Us. Like you had to stay by your phone
yeah,
because you just didn't know like these dudes is dropping, like, you know what I'm saying. But when Not Like Us hit, and it's it, it's funny because a DJ Mustard beat a West Coast through and through type of joint, and it's clearly has a signature West Coast sound,
mm-hmm.
and the whole world just it became their anthem for that week, right? The fact that it was so catchy, uh, and started making its rounds in clubs the way it did, and you started seeing, the people, taking videos of how the club reaction was, like, so Not Like Us, that was a knockout blow.
Yeah, that was it right there, man. That was a strategist using his culture
Mm-hmm.
as a tactic. I mean, that again, that's one of the things that won Kendrick this battle. He leaned heavily into his culture, something that he flipped on Drake.
Mm.
Like, hey man, you from Canada, bro. Like it's different cultures. Not to say it's nothing wrong with Canada. We nobody has a problem with Canada. You know what I
Mm.
mean? It's just you a guest here, my boy.
Yeah, and
He
also too, if you notice, other Canadian rappers ain't never had that cultural identity question like Drake.
right, right. I mean, the
Our
receipts
racial
all over the internet.
MCs haven't even had their cultural identity question like J. Cole. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
Drake.
Drake is the common denominator.
Yeah.
We rock with Canada. We rock with Ras
Cardinal
Fresco,
official.
all them.
Yeah. And
You know what I mean?
Crash Fresco.
That's why,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's
Peace
why
to
I
the
said
God.
it's not even that he was from Canada. It's his past.
Mm-hmm.
It's how he changed from this like nerdy, because
Mm,
remember when Drake came in the game, this is when the game was kind of transitioning from like hardcore to like
mm-hmm.
you had Kanye, you
Mm-hmm.
had Lupe.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool to be regular. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. Yeah.
teaching us. Even Drake, he was
Yeah.
being himself kind of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at first.
Yep. And
And so what Kendrick destroyed is this tough
mm,
so-called mob boss Drake. That's not real.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
Kendrick picked that apart.
Right.
That's what we didn't like. That was the culture vulture. That's who got assassinated. It
Facts.
wasn't Drake. You know what I
Facts.
mean? Well, it was Drake.
It's
Aubrey. Only thing is
yeah.
left is Aubrey.
Facts. It's
You know what
like
I mean?
that. No, you're right. Like, and it's, and I saw a clip that was circulating about with Lil Wayne telling him, like, whenever he first signed him, that he
Mm.
didn't want him to do that. You know,
Yep.
it's like Wayne saw might have foresaw how that could turn against you. You know,
Yep.
once you get famous, and you get famous for being the regular dude, the cool dude that, you know, that's just a hip hop head who, or loves music and like kicking it with the ladies and going out and having a good time. Like, there's room in hip hop for that. Like,
Absolutely.
always has been, right? But then over time, I feel like his associations with street dudes um made him you know, feel like he was a street dude you know, or begin to pick up that persona. Yeah, and it didn't work. Everybody always, I feel like, saw through it. I think a lot of people maybe ignore it because of, you know, they feel like he's a great, you know, artist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But do you think that moving forward, you know, when it comes to things like cultural cachet, right? Obviously, Drake will always, well, at least for the foreseeable time, continue to, you know, be on the charts whenever he
Mm.
drops something. But do you think, like, after this battle, he will forever be looked at differently by the culture?
Yes.
Explain.
Yes. Well, I think everybody, like you said, everybody always looked at him as who he started out as.
Hmm.
And again, once the machine is behind you, like the music industry chose Drake, you know, because of his talent, because of his marketability, they chose him to be the boy, the one.
Yeah. Hmm.
He's the one. We can't deny it. He's the one. He's the face of pop rap culture.
Right.
Okay. So once they gave him that power, it went to his head. So be it. And so I think that we always saw him as who he originally was. We knew that this Drake that was created wasn't real.
Mm.
And now, you know, people spoken on it. Styles P, DMX. This ain't
Hmm.
nothing new.
Yeah.
This ain't nothing new. So we always knew who he was, but we never tried to strip him of his talent. He's
Hmm.
the guy's talented. And
Hmm.
so we're just gonna go back to seeing him for who he truly is. He
Mm.
can no longer play the tough guy.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
real.
Yeah. My boss Drake is the one
My
that died, right?
Yep, that nail in the coffin was not like us. Mob Boss Drake was put to rest that day.
Damn. Now when we now one of the things that I saw that was part of the conversation was, you know, people are trying to find out if what Kendrick said about Drake is true, or if what Drake said about Kendrick is true, and this need to prove whether it was true or not. And I feel like in a battle, none of that shit matters. It don't matter
At
if it
all.
was true. It don't matter. It just matters how it affects you, right?
It don't matter if it was true. It matters if it hit.
Right,
Is this stuff lining up?
right.
Because he could have hit, like you said, he could have said Drake is an alien. We know Drake ain't no
Right,
alien.
right,
It
right,
don't
right,
hit right.
right.
You have to say stuff. It don't necessarily got to be true, but it has to make sense.
Yeah.
Everything he said about Drake made sense.
Hmm.
I mean, most of what Drake said about him made sense. And so it's not about who was lying or telling the truth. They tried to zoom in on Kendrick like, oh, he doesn't have an 11-year daughter. Hey, we don't care, man.
Yeah.
The man track record is this. And so he went with it.
Right. and I look at it too. Like if we look at like URL battles, niggas be lying.
Lying they ass off.
You know what I'm saying?
You know
Like,
how many gun bar? If you listen to all the battles, you would think these guys in the military, man. You ain't got that
real
many
talk,
guns,
special
fam.
ops, man,
Stop it.
special ops for real.
Stop the
Yeah.
cap.
Now, what's your thought on the idea that it wasn't just the music that won this battle? That now moving forward, you're gonna have to take strategy into account when battling on the big stage like this. Like, what? Like, do you think that like moving forward is strategy going to be playing a big part, and how much did strategy play a part in this one?
Absolutely. Strategy, again, strategy was 75% of the win for Kendrick.
Mm,
Kendrick is naturally talented. He came up battling in Cali. You know what I mean?
hmm
He was in a couple circles and stuff like that. And so we know he can rap. We
hmm
know he creative. A lot of this was just strategy. I'm gonna play with I'm gonna just dance around this guy and
Right.
drop and step on everything he do. So moving forward, yes. And even when we look at Pusha and Drake, Pusha
Mm,
applied a bit of strategy as well.
hmm
And so I think moving forward in future battles, they taking notes.
Yeah.
I think these other rappers are taking notes.
What one thing we didn't even mention and was after Not Like Us, Drake dropped the Heart Part 6,
Mhm.
which sounded it, bro. I'd never heard a response record that sounds so defeated in my life. Like that man got the wind knocked out of him.
Yeah, the title of that should have been "Never Underestimate Your Opponent,"
Mm.
because that's what it sounded like. That's what it sounded like. It sounded like a person who just lost a fight that they thought they was gonna win.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it sounded like.
It's like a boxer at the like whenever like Showtime boxing, man, and they interview the cat that lost. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly
The
what that
delusional cat,
was.
like
Yeah, yeah.
it was the judges, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I can remember Adrian Broner like losing damn near every round and talking about, man, no, man, I won that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That
yeah.
was definitely an Adrian Broner moment.
Yeah, real talk, man. Damn. So just overall, man, before we go, like, how do you see this battle, man, going down in history, or anything else you want to add? Like, just that you've been, kind of contemplated on, just due to the fact that it probably is one of the biggest moments in recent hip hop history.
Yeah, it's definitely top five in my opinion. As time goes on, I'll figure out where it fit at in that top five. Um, I feel like it was so many levels to this battle. I mean, even when you look at like the industry politics and how certain artists are kind of questioning side eyeing these uh clicking up between artists and Gamma and UMG, and it's just bringing a lot of talking points to the culture that I think need to be talked about. You know what I mean?
Hmm
These sponsorships, these distribution deals, 360s, who's owning who, these splits. All of this is something that we need, as artists and fans, need to be aware of. And I think this battle shined a light on that. I think it shined a light on strategy, on ethics,
hmm
it's a lot of levels, man. I think that we could, moving into the future, looking back, we can look back and be like, we could talk about this. You know what I
Now,
mean?
do you think um when it's all said and done, does this is this going like, let's say 4 or 5 years from now when the dust has settled, right? And there's a new bunch of a crop of young MCs that are uh you know vying for the mantle of who's
Mhm.
number one, and the artists of Kendrick, and obviously when you get older you can still make music, but you're not, being number one seems like in the game at the time seems like about a 10-year run, you know what I'm saying, for most, right? But when it's all said and done, what do you think this did for uh Kendrick's legacy? And like, does it put him in these top 10 and top five lists? Because that's what I've been seeing lately.
Yeah, this undeniable. Like, if you didn't respect him before, you have to respect him now, even if you don't like his music, because everybody not gonna like everything. But
Mhm.
this battle definitely made you pay attention, even if you don't like him. And
Right.
so yeah, this put him, this solidified his legacy to me long term.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And before we go, just thoughts keep popping in my mind of some of the things that I had thought about during this battle. I think this was always going to happen, not just for the fact that um, they had been kind of going back and forth for about 10 years, but like we said, a lot of times your reign at the top, like 5 to 10 year run, right? When it gets when it when that time when it gets to that time, like it's like it's always like two trains converging, and we gotta see who's left standing, so the history books can write this was the MC of that era. You know what I'm saying? And I think this is what happened, man. But Street Sufi Los, my brother, man, it's always a pleasure having you on, bro. And you already know we'll do it again soon, man. But again, thank you for coming through, bro. And all your insight is always appreciated.
I appreciate you, bro. Peace.
Peace, God.